Okay, we're recording. Hello, this is Rick DiClemente. Welcome to Astrology Unplugged. I think it's version 25 tonight, episode 25, and a lot of goodies in store. In case you're new with us, welcome. We're not all astrologers, but we're all astrology aficionados, and it's a laid-back way of discussing astrology. Many ways, many different parts, and I guarantee you, after you stick with this for a while, stay tuned to these recordings which are put on YouTube, you're going to say to yourself that you cannot believe how underrated astrology is. It's probably the thing in the entire planet that's the most underrated in terms of how important it is and what you can really do with it. But I'm talking about the real thing, not the junk astrology. Anyhow, tonight is very rare because the planet Eris, to remind you now, Eris was discovered in 2003. Of course, she has been out there for billions of years. And she was called UB 2003 or something like that, when all these new bodies were found beyond Pluto. And they're called the, help me, Elkie.
Trans-Plutonians.
Well, they're called the Kuiper Belt. They're in what's called the Kuiper Belt.
Oh, the Kuiper Belt. Okay. Kuiper Belt.
Now, so at that time, I'm going to be muting all the microphones here. At that time, when Eris was found, they didn't know what to call her, so they called her Xena, after Xena, the Princess Warrior, because she is known for being lawless. She does have a character that's revealing itself. She is the goddess of disruption, discord. I'm going to ask all of you to please govern yourself and mute your own microphones till we have one-on-one discussions because of the feedback. So when she was discovered, 79 other ones were discovered, and we had a choice to add 80 new planets to the zodiac or to demote 2 of them, Pluto and Ceres. Okay, now Ceres is the largest of the asteroids between Mars and Jupiter. Of course, Pluto is a planet still with astrologers, but not with astronomers, and that's why it got demoted in 2006. We had to add 80 more planets, which gives us 88, which kind of matches because there's 88 constellations, or demote 2 of them. So they chose to make a non-planet. You don't tell Pluto it's not a planet. You can say those words if you want to, but Pluto laughs at you. It's very powerful. So around 2005, they came up with a permanent name of Eris, and Eris is a god of discord. There's a lot about Eris. There's a lot to study. She seems to be the leader of the pack as far as feminine rights and the rise of the feminine. There's a lot about her we don't know yet because she moves very slowly, but I found unbelievable things. I found in Trump's chart, Eris is exactly opposite Neptune, making it T-square to his Mercury, which is his ruling planet. Eris opposite Neptune, T-square to Mercury, his ruling planet. And if you think this man had symbols in the past of possible untruths, this has been multiplied thousands of times. It's a massive symbol. So anyhow, I'm not going to go into Eris, not only because I don't know much about her, I'm still studying her. But what's significant is this. Picture her going around the zodiac. So 560 years, something like that. Pluto, 260 years. So you will look and see here, as I get all my ducks in a row here. All right. Can you all see the pattern and the orbit of Eris? Can you see it? Okay. So you can see that Pluto actually crosses paths with Neptune, is actually closer to the Earth. It's sometimes with the Neptune is, but Eris is way out here. And what that causes is when you have such a huge elliptical orbit, what you have is this. Now I'm showing, can you see this other picture? No, okay. Let me, thank you. Okay. Let me show you, I want to show you, this is a pattern of Chiron. I'm doing this on purpose. Can you see this? Okay, what I'm showing you this for, Chiron is similar only in the sense Chiron is much smaller. It's a 51-year orbit. It's kind of like an asteroid, but I'm showing you this because it shows you how Chiron can be in one sign for a long time and be in another sign for a short time. Chiron can be in Aries up to 8 years and can be in Sag up to 2 years. So I'm showing you what an elliptical orbit causes. In that same fashion, we see how Eris is spending 125 years in the sign of Aries. That is so massive that while it's inching its way through every 84 years is one orbit of Uranus. Now, the thing that's unusual about Uranus is it's the only planet that hits exactly. It's like an electric bolt. And when it hits you, it hits exactly. You'll never know what it's going to do. It doesn't know what it's going to do. It's always unpredictable. It's always sudden. It's always dramatic. And it's always exact. 2:30 tonight. If you shoot an arrow tonight through Uranus and it goes out into space and out, it would hit exactly Eris. So the three bodies will be perfectly aligned, and that's why things are so nuts on this planet. And if you read about Eris, you will discover that Eris's nature matches exactly what's happening. Now, Eris didn't come up on us last weekend. Eris has been around for 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years. We don't know enough yet because she's so big and powerful and unmapped. So 2:30 tonight, they will all be in exact alignment. All right? This does not mean it's going to be bad. It certainly doesn't mean it's going to be good. It's probably going to be both. But it's going to be monumental. And when you're in the middle of a huge change, you can't tell. Now, let's go back in time when Uranus hit it before. About every 100 years, Eris hit it before. Eris hit it before. Eris hit it before. But this is the first time it's ever hit it since we've known about Eris. That's a big deal. In astrology, a planet versus the planet you're aware of are two different stories. Look what happened when we discovered Pluto in 1930. Hitler, atomic weapons. Holocaust. Very Plutonian. Look at Eris, the time of Galileo, exactly when Jamestown started. Look, other periods, 1928 was the last one, right during the Depression. So anyhow, these are big times, big events, and we cannot really understand it. And that's one of the problems of astrology is all these darn things happen at the same time, and it's confusing what's causing what. So it's definitely what I think one part of it, it's so big, but one part of it, no doubt in my mind, it is the Arab Spring in America. I think somebody objective like Elke, who's a German Canadian, can agree with me there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Louise, I got to mute your sound. Okay, I had you on twice there somehow. Okay, so you understand it's big. It's big because here's how the planets work. When the big ones get in place, like a UFO above your house. When the big planets get in place in your chart and they start to aspect your birth chart, that's a big era. But when another planet comes by and hits it on top, like piling on, whoo! March 30th. I've been talking. You see me on Facebook. Everybody say, explain it to me, explain it to me, explain it to me. March 30th, Pluto will be exactly opposite Trump's sun, but not in his birth chart, in his 10th harmonic chart. That's a different kind of chart. It's hard to explain, but it's the chart of his public persona, his public stance. You can call it the Trump sign up in the sky. It's the chart that's vulnerable to falling from grace. On July 1st, Mars is going to pile on. March 30 is when Pluto, IRS, possible atomic issues, all this stuff is mounting. IRS, show us your tax returns. All this stuff is mounting. That's the era that's coming across Trump's chart. Mars will come the next time and trigger it on July the 1st and 2nd. So you better write that down and guarantee it. It's going to be a time of great challenge for him. Now, if he's using his energy right and justly, and if he's using his power, not abusing it, he'll be fine. But okay. So tonight, the significance is that the Eris period is upon us, and now the Uranus is conjuncting with it. The key words are revolution, the self. One of the things I think is causing is this, and I'm pretty certain of this, came to me last night. In the New Age movement, the spiritual movement, I think two significant things have happened. Three significant things have happened. I said years ago we were going to stop talking about energy and start talking about thought and intent. That's happening. I've got guests lined up that are going to be talking about intent rather than energy, because intent is beyond energy. The end of the age of mea culpa is very clear. People don't want to slap themselves on the back anymore and bleed and hang on a cross. You've all seen the Da Vinci Code where the guy's flagellating himself and he's beating himself on the back and bleeding. Let me suffer. That mentality's dying. And the third thing I think is Eris with Uranus. And I think that what that means is this. Healer, heal thyself. We're learning. We're not getting anywhere by, I got to go help them. I got to go help them. I got to go help them. And we're learning in a lot of ways it's a cop-out. We're learning that as I change the world. And I really think that's Eris and Uranus. I think that's a healthy part of it. So anyhow, we'll be more about that later on. I want to get right back into Yvonne's chart, but first, unmute yourself if you have a question about this Eris issue. Anybody? If not, we'll move forward.
Rick, how do we know what Eris really means and stands for? Other than, I know Henry Seltzer.
Type in meaning of Eris in Google and you'll find out.
No, Henry Seltzer's been doing some research on it, but what did he do? Did he just go and research, the periods before?
You research the periods before. You research people in the past that have heavy conjunctions with it. Mine's conjunct Jupiter, exactly. You have to use a salt shaker next to you while you're doing it. As we learn, any new discover that comes to us, it has to prove itself, has to unveil itself. So we take the basic meaning from mythology and we play with it. Just like everything in astrology. And as you play with it, it becomes finer and more refined and more defined. There's no doubt.
But
So
do they actually use statistics on it? Do they use statistical
you
analysis?
do every darn thing you can with it. Yeah, you do
Okay.
stats on it. You look up people. You look up events. You look up what happened in your life when planets hit your Eris. What happens with people that you have Eris, 15 degrees away from? All the astrological tactics you do, you exercise it, you try and emphasize. But for now, it's too big of a story. It's too new. But what is significant is Uranus is conjuncting with it tonight. Powerful. Now, let's go to Yvonne. Thank you, Elke. All right, I'm going to call up her chart and go into Solar Fire and hope that you can see her birth chart, and it says you can't. All right. So we will try this again. Can you see Yvonne's chart now with the Saturn square to Venus? Okay. All right. Now, you remember last week that I walked you very slowly through the beginning of this, and we found that she's a Gemini with the Sun near Uranus, making her much bigger than a Gemini, and she is quite Aquarian because of that. The Venus rising makes her very Libran-like. The Jupiter opposite Saturn is the subject of tonight. Jupiter opposite Saturn with the T-square to Mercury. The moon Pluto we found was a tremendous, powerful symbol in the chart, which I don't want to discuss tonight. It's too personal. It's too big. It's the hardest aspect there is to talk about. And I will talk about that in private with her because we will have to dig to find out more about it. But the purpose of tonight is to show you how powerful this Saturn opposite Jupiter, T-square to Mercury is. Now, for the moment, Yvonne, would you unmute yourself? And just in general, you're being recorded now. Just in general, give me some feedback to what the story has been told so far about your reading. How do you feel about what's been said? Let's see if we can find her. Yvonne?
Yeah.
Did you hear that? Did you hear me?
Okay, there you are. All right. I
I unmuted you.
Yeah, I was having trouble unmuting.
Yeah. Well, in general, what are your feelings of the reading so far?
I think it's been great. You've been right on target with it. It's been very good.
Now, I want to talk to you about this.
Insightful.
All right. You've got Jupiter opposite Saturn. All right. These are called aspects. So every planet you have, including Pluto, including Eris, all these other guys, but for now, let's keep it to Pluto and Chiron. Every planet is in a sign. It's also in a house, which reminds me, I got opening for one more person. I'm going to start a beginner's class soon, but I'm not going to do it without 8 people, and I've got 7. So if you are interested, it will be on Tuesday nights, and please let me know through email at rick@starself.com. I will be teaching just through the same device, but it'll be Tuesday nights. I'm even considering starting a second night for Unplugged because so many people are on fire with the subject. But I got to think long and hard about that because it can be trying. All right. We saw in her chart where she had Jupiter opposite Saturn. Well, let me show you this. I'm going to mute you now, Yvonne. All right. Somebody needs muted. All right. Okay. So you see in her chart, she has Jupiter opposite Saturn. So every planet you've got is in a sign. It is also in a house. A planet that's in a sign tells you what energy. Your Mars is the type of aggressive energy you have. Mars describes your maleness, even for females. How do you go get? How do you talk into? How do you persuade? Do you sit back? Are you cowardly? Are you aggressive? What? How that's your Mars describes it. Whatever sign it's in describes it further. Mars in Virgo works Virgoanly. It works exacting. Mars in Gemini has a jack of all trades. Mars in Capricorn is exalted there. It's very efficient. Mars in Cancer. Ooh, I don't want to hurt you while I move in here. Ooh, be careful. Ooh, be careful. So you mix the Mars with the sign. Venus, the moon is how you feel. If your moon is in Pisces, you're very loving, but maybe a little bit too soft. If your moon is in Leo, it makes your moon proud and strong and ebullient. So you're always mixing things in astrology. The third thing comes in, what house is it in? Learning the houses are similar to the signs, but yet they're different. So a planet in the second house picks up qualities like Taurus, since Taurus is the second sign. A planet in the seventh house picks up qualities like Libra, because it's the seventh sign. The houses tell us where we put the energy. The houses tell us where we use the energy. The planet is the energy. The sign is what kind of energy. The houses, where do we deposit it? Next, you have the aspects. Mars is opposite something. Saturn is next to something. That tells you how these guys get along. Are they in opposition at the table? Are they sitting next to each other at the table? Those are called the aspects. The geometrical lineup of one planet versus another. That's basically your tools in astrology. What planet is in what sign, in what house, and what aspects is it making to other planets. That's the big deal of astrology. Those are the four main chunks. So when we go into her chart, to remind you now, we see that she's pretty well balanced. She's got Jupiter up here all by itself in a really fabulous place, Pisces. Jupiter is really well placed in Pisces because Jupiter, before the discovery of Neptune in the 18th century, Jupiter was the ruler of Pisces. So nowadays, Jupiter's called the co-ruler. So Jupiter's well placed. Why is that? You'll just make it up. Well, Jupiter is about expansion and growing, and Neptune is, or Pisces, is all about unboundedness, include everybody, loving everybody. So the two work together. It's a very big spiritual statement. Free, loving, very unconditional. Very big person. I don't care what the sun sign is. But the Jupiter's opposite Saturn. All right, we also saw the Chiron is very strong, but I'm not going to get into all that tonight. I'm going to talk about the Jupiter opposite the Saturn, T-squared to Mercury, and I'm going to go into her past lives. So the Jupiter in Pisces, and this comes from a past life, is somebody with a whole lot of faith. They have a whole lot of belief. They go forward. Jupiter's how you go forward in life. Do you go forward with faith? Do you plan everything? Do you freak out and drag your feet? What do you do? Do you shut all the doors and hide? What do you do? Your Jupiter has a lot to do with that. Well, right across from Jupiter is one of the most uptight planets there is. Saturn in Virgo. What does Saturn in Virgo say? Oh, well, you didn't do that right. Then the code 407, sub-article number 19 here, we're going to have a talk about that. That you didn't do in the book like the Czar said. It's really tough and very strong and very, it's distinct, and it's the core. It's the core of what drives the Tea Party. The Tea Party's a really powerful chart, and all of a sudden in the middle they got Venus opposite Saturn and Virgo, which means austerity. So what do you do with her? She's got the Jupiter. That planet's exactly where it needs to be. This is difficult stuff. You're not going to learn this in your first year of astrology. It's tough stuff. What do the books say? I've got Jupiter, Saturn myself, but they're not in those two signs. Jupiter, which is spend your money. Hey, let's have a party. Let's just do it. Saturn is uptight and be cautious and recoil and save money for a rainy day. People with Jupiter opposite Saturn or people with Jupiter square Saturn at a right angle, oftentimes, not always, have a very hard time with expansion and contraction. They spend $5, they torture themselves for spending $5. They save $5, they torture themselves for saving $5. They should have spent it. It doesn't work harmoniously inside them. They're not the ones you want in charge of your money in your corporation. Now, if they were 1/3 of the circle around, instead of opposite, 1/3 of the way around, 120 degrees, that's a high degree of harmony called a trine. These are the people you want running your Department of Treasury. They know exactly when to invest. They know exactly when to contract. They just got it. You see? That's what an astrologer looks for. The orb is critical. How close is it? Is one at 5 and the other one's at 5? Ooh, then the guitar string is really tight. One's at 5 and one's at 10. You got a little bit of leeway. In general, you don't want any planet too close to any other planet. You just don't. Even Venus and the moon. You just don't want planets too close together. Give me some elbow room. So we don't know why, but I'm not giving her a full reading. Number one, I'm not going to go into the moon Pluto too much because it's too difficult. And you heard some of the issues last week, and it's very personal. And for tonight's purpose, we don't need to. We're going to examine the Jupiter Saturn. That means that I'm going to turn your microphone on now, Yvonne. When she goes forward, she feels wrong. She feels like, hey, you're wasting your time. Hey, you're being a slob and you're being irresponsible. What's wrong with you? So this very natural, you ever see little kids and they just jump and jump and jump on the bed? You get them on the bed and they jump and jump and jump because they got tons of energy. It's a beautiful energy. That's the Jupiter inside of you. We all have it. And what do you think Saturn says? What are you jumping for? You're going to hurt the bed. Son, sit down, behave like blah, 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 blah. That's Saturn. Now tell me, Yvonne, how's that theme sound to you? Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, very familiar.
Tell me a little more than one sentence.
Well, one thing I can't seem to avoid is when you start talking about the critical Saturn, I remember immediately my mother comes to mind. But
okay, now we don't have to get too personal about it. But what I'm saying here is you're familiar with this trend,
right? One way that I have noticed that this Jupiter-Saturn opposition looked in my life was when I was raising my kids. I would jump back and forth between being permissive and disciplinarian.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And where do you think that came from?
Well, yeah, I figured out it was my Jupiter-Saturn opposition.
Yeah, but it isn't your Jupiter-Saturn. It's not your parents. It's a past life. That's what I have learned. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. So, what happens with her, and the reason we're talking about this now is because she's ready to break through this. God does not waste our time. Neptune is in the area of those two planets now. That's why we're talking about it on the international showcase, and we're pointing to it because you're ready to deal with it. Now, I'm going to spend a lot of time on this because this is exemplary of how this stuff works when you do it right. So when she goes forward, she feels bad. When she gets too uptight, she feels bad because she's over defending and being too restrictive. She should be more liberal. It's got nothing to do with her kids. I'm sure they sense it in her, but she can't resolve this, has not been able to resolve it till now for whatever reason. But the point is this, we could go on to Jupiter, Saturn forever, but look at this. This is why you see me always talking about T-squares, because they're such a big deal. All right, watch this. Do you see how they both make a triangle to Mercury? Do you see the triangle? Jupiter at 7, Saturn is at 13, so that's good. You got 6-degree orb, you got a little bit of play. The guitar string's not too tight, and they make a right angle to the Mercury. So the closest part of this triangle is the Jupiter and the Mercury, 7 and 6. So there's more pressure here, but it's not too bad because Jupiter Mercury isn't that bad of an aspect. It's just someone who's prone to exaggeration every now and then, you might say. Does that make any sense, Yvonne?
A little. I try to not exaggerate. I catch myself sometimes.
Yeah, but you probably ought to let yourself do it a whole lot more and tell that Saturn to take a hike. Because that Saturn is too strict in his chart. But here's what happens. Here's why T-square is so big of a deal. All that energy in this fight between Jupiter and Saturn goes to Mercury. Okay, let's talk about this. What does the Jupiter say? Do it, Saturn. Don't do it. Jupiter, oh, just quit being so tight. Have a drink. Don't worry about it. Oh, last time you had a drink, don't you remember what happened? And you got DUI, and these two voices can go back and forth, and they really can go at it because these two voices are not very friendly. They're not really bed pals. Jupiter is pre-Saturnian. Just do it. Don't worry about it. Look at the world in 1995. Look at the world through 2008. We were under a Sagittarian spell. Do it. Spend the money. Lend the money. Get a credit card. Put it, hawk it. Just put it on the credit card. Don't worry about it. Loans, loans, loans. There you see the Saturn, boom, 2008 on, you saw the Capricorn. Same contrast between those two periods. The Sag period, 1995 to 2008. The Capricorn period since then. Austerity. So they can work together. You can't paint a black picture. And a lot of the books really paint very black pictures, especially when Saturn's concerned. The way this does work is whenever one of the problems with Jupiter, it does get excessive. It does get out of hand. It does stay at the gambling joint too long. It does get in gambling debt. Saturn says, have some sense. You want some money, go home. Well, that's a pretty good advice. So it can be good. As a matter of fact, someone like her with the Jupiter Saturn can exercise it so much throughout their life because they have so much trouble with it, they can actually end up being a financial expert because they've worked at it so much. But I don't want to get into that too deep. What I want to get into is this. The T-square sends all its energy to Mercury. Now let's examine the Mercury. You cannot understand a T-square till you understand the fight. The fight is the Jupiter-Saturn. Expand, contract, expand, contract. Liberal, conservative, liberal, conservative. The fight is there, and it goes back to the past life, which is going to blow your mind here in a minute. So the T-square sends all its energy to Mercury. Now, if there was no T-square, you would just have the fight. You ever see people, I'm sure you see people, that just fight inside their head that you could just sense the ping pong balls is always going? Those are people that have the opposition. They don't have the third planet to express through. You can watch it. You can watch ping pong ball go back and forth and back and forth. What she does, she intellectualizes it. She's a Gemini. She's a Gemini. Her natural ruler, all Geminis are ruled by Mercury. And she's got the fight of Jupiter, Saturn. Whenever it gets too much, you have that escape valve. All the energy goes to Mercury. So what does she do? She gets out of the fight by going to do something mentally. What's the problem? She tries to figure it out. I will guarantee you, all her life, when this Jupiter, Saturn kicked in every single time, she tries to figure it out. That's what Virgo does. And you can't figure it out. It's not figurable. Your Jupiter wants to be Jupiter. And Saturn says, if you're going on stage, I'm going on stage too. Do you see how it works? If you're going on stage, hey, no way you're going to sing a solo. I'm not letting you get away with that. And Jupiter tells Saturn, well, I'm not going to listen to your sad tunes. If you're going on stage, I'm going on stage. That's what the aspect means. They're always in each other's face. That's why you will see me and other astrologers who do what's called astrodrama. And some of the people on this picture tonight are some of my students who know me well and have done this with me. That's why you talk for the planets. That's how you learn to express and translate them. Well, if you go on stage and one guy's going, let's do it, let's have some fireworks, the other guy's over saying, oh, you're so frivolous and you're wasting all this time, and you're watching these two go on, and you step in the middle of them as Mercury, what do? You try to stop it, halt it, and figure it out. Well, let me ask you something. What kind of figuring out are you going to do that's going to solve anything? None. None. So what? It comes from mom. So what? It's an opposing psychological trait. So what? That's where the T-square comes in. And you can't blame her. That was her outlet. If it weren't for that Mercury, the fight would have been worse. So what else does Mercury do? It talks. Mercury's communicate. So a lot of times, even though she's quiet here, a lot of times I'll guarantee you she'll talk, because it's chatter to get that energy out from that fight. T-squares are enormously significant. And when a transiting planet like today or tomorrow or next month hits it, whoa. That's when you're ready to deal with it. Now, does this make sense to you, Yvonne?
Yes, very much.
Okay, is it true that when you got into disturbance within yourself, you went into the mind and tried to figure it out?
That seemed like the natural thing to me to do.
For sure, and the natural thing of all Gemini, the number one thing Geminis do is epistemology. They're obsessed with learning how the mind works. True?
Fascinates me.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
they're fascinated. They're just absorbed with it. So you can see that her absorption is about this thing of express yourself and don't express yourself. Now we have to calm down a bit. We have to look deeper. This is why readings can take a long time. Because what's really being said here? What's really being said is that Yvonne has this truly beautiful, loving, spiritual, opening, trusting part of her, Jupiter up in Pisces, but she's also got this part of her that, shut up, don't do it, you broke the rules, rah, 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 rah. Got both parts. And it's real easy to blame the parents. It's not the parents. The parents play the role that you decided. Now, someone asked me about that this week, how I came up with such a theory. All I know is for 50 years I've been studying Eastern philosophy, and in my opinion, it's just my opinion, That you creating your own environment, you creating your own chart, you deciding with your soul group who's going to be who in the next life, who's going to play what role, is my opinion that it's true. I see lots of evidence from my research. Now, you can believe otherwise, fine.
I agree with you.
Okay. A lot of people do. Now,
That is my belief
now,
too.
what I have learned recently, the parents are much less to blame than you think. And that should make all you parents feel pretty darn good. You're much less to blame than you think. People come in with these qualities. That's how my research started. I said, why are these people coming in with these qualities? That's what caused me to renew my search into the harmonic charts. And that's where I found my answers. Okay, now watch this. We're going to go into her charts. We're going to call up her past life chart. Okay, this is her 12th harmonic. Elke, can you see it? Okay, what do you see in her past life chart? Which is what I also call the spiritual transcript. How about Saturn in Virgo square to Mercury in Gemini? She's got the same fight in the last lifetime, in the history of her spiritual development. She's got Saturn in Virgo square to Mercury, but there's no Jupiter opposite Saturn this time, is there? Like in the natal chart. This is the past life. She's very advanced. She's very Virgo, and we see that again. But we see what's happening here. Here's the story. Here's the story. I want to make sure of something first. I want to go back to the birth chart. Okay. Neptune now is at 12 degrees. Neptune now is at 12 degrees of Pisces. It's right here. It's right opposite Saturn. Now, the passive, allowing, unconditional loving, beautiful, spiritual Neptune that's in her is now getting ready to line up with her critical Saturn and have a long talk about what's been going on for a long time. This is what's happening. And this could scare her S-less. Here's why. Because the Neptune is not some force that's out there. It is God's grace. But what it indicates is that she's ready to start softening that Saturn inside of her. She's got to take ownership of it first. It's not the parents. You saw it in the past life. She's been on her own back. Why has she been on her own back? And it's always the same reason. Because of misunderstanding, misconstruing past BS dogma. That's where we get this stuff from. From the church, from the rules, from the dogma, from the Hierophant. You can't do that. You don't act like that. Women don't do that. What's wrong with you? That kind of stuff. That's dying. So we can see clearly with Yvonne, this has been coming on for a while. This is not subtle. This is not today. This has been sneaking up on her like Neptune does quietly for years now. But she's really in a position now where she's turning around inside. The Neptune part of her transiting is hitting her Saturn, and she's getting ready to face that part and say to it, why have I kept you along so long? What good are you doing me? What good are you doing strangling me all the time? I don't need you checking me all the time. I've got Jupiter in Pisces. I have a natural love. I have a natural being, you see. So one of the things that's being said here is the mother image needs buried. It doesn't mean to do anything to the mother, but the mother voice in the head needs buried in taking ownership of the Jupiter in Pisces. But one of the problems with it is burying it means you got to now take responsibility for it, and that's the scary part. In other words, having that fight is a comfort. That's the mature part of the reading. Having the Jupiter-Saturn fight there all the time gives you an excuse all the time of why you don't expand, why you don't try things, why you don't go out. Well, because this Saturn thing's going to always stop me, and this thing's always there. It becomes comfortable, it becomes functional. So along with the liberation comes the responsibility of having had it. And that's why Neptune moves slowly. It gives you time. It's giving you God's grace delivering tonight right to you. So when Neptune hits that Saturn, Neptune is the unconditional loving planet. I don't care who you are. And Saturn is real critical and uptight, and you got to do things this way, and you broke the rules here. Well, they're both parts of her. And the Neptune is powerful. It's probably the most powerful planet there is. And it's starting to tell her, look, we're starting to see that when you're not uptight, things work out. We're starting to see that when you don't slap down everybody's idea, we still survive. The sky doesn't fall. When you start to let it be, that's the exact opposite of those two planets. One's let it be, the Jupiter in Pisces. One is, you don't let it be. There's something wrong here. Stop it, fix it. There's something wrong here. Why do you think the people with the Virgo energies like that almost always end up with intestinal problems? Number one. The number one illness I see consistently is Virgo people or people with Virgo in their chart and intestinal issues. Number one. Why? Because they don't let it flow. They don't let it flow. Now, if you want to know more about this, I'm very sincere. I did a 90-minute video on this, and I cut it down to 30 minutes, and it's on my YouTube channel under my name. And you see it on the YouTube channel. You see all these numbered 1 through 24 episodes of Unplugged. There's one that sticks out because it's got a symbol of the Virgin, and it's all about helping the Virgos get past perfectionism. And it's 90 minutes cut down to 30. It's all about this subject. Now, I want to stop, and Yvonne, I'm going to bug you here.
Okay.
Don't tell me no either. There's a force coming through you, and you got to be feeling this, that you don't want this Saturn speaking so loudly. You want this drill sergeant to move out.
Yes and no.
Okay,
Because
very good. Very honest. Tell me about the yes. Why do you want it to move out?
Because it's too strong.
Okay, tell me what it tells you. This is very valuable. What does he say to you, Saturn and Virgo?
Exactly what you've been saying.
Tell me in your words.
Very, very, very self-critical. I don't do things right. I shouldn't have done that. I should have done this.
Right.
And so forth and so on.
Right.
And but on the other hand, I've been trying to work with this for a long time. And one thing that Jupiter can also get out of hand. Mm-hmm. And I've been working on learning to tone down the Saturn, but not shut it up entirely, because it helps keep Jupiter from going.
That's very good. It's excellent. Yes.
That makes sense.
When I hear the word try, I get really worried about it. When I hear that,
I'm working on it.
When I hear working on it, also is the same as try. I get concerned about it too. Tell me why you're nervous.
Well, to say that I've conquered it would be a lot.
Why are you nervous about firing the Saturn?
About what?
Why are you nervous about firing Saturn? Of course, you can't because it's a major part of you. Why are you worried about diminishing Saturn's voice?
The only thing that worries me about it is Jupiter getting too far out of control.
That's a perfect answer. Every
going
answer
overboard.
you've given is perfect. Go ahead.
Jupiter going overboard.
Yeah, that's a perfect answer. And Saturn says, if I leave here, you'll have a damn party and there'll be beer everywhere and it'll be a mess. That's exactly how these two crazy extremes work. And Saturn is the loss of control. When you talk to Jupiter and Neptune, it says, well, we don't need control. We're going with the flow here, and God is feeding me and it'll be okay. But see, this comes from a past life. In the past life, it was Saturn squared to Mercury. So it wasn't the Jupiter part, it was the actual thinking. When you had free thoughts, the Saturn stopped you and tried to organize everything. And Geminis don't want to be organized. Gemini's all about being playful. Go look at this, look at this. Ooh, isn't that neat? Isn't that neat? So what it comes down to now that we're really drilling, and we haven't even touched Moon Pluto, you have learned somewhere, in my opinion, your analysis so far has been excellent. The message you picked up along the way, along your spiritual path was, if you allow your mind to float free, you're going to screw up because you got to have a disciplined mind. Now, if you're learning with George Gurdjieff or Uspensky or some of the other ones that are tough, good luck, go do it. And if you're more along the path of a natural kind of lotus opening of the mind, then it's not going to get it. I'm not talking about being lazy, but your real issue here is on the spiritual path, how much mental freedom can I give myself? And you're in a war with that. And the main part of the war is all the dogma that was screaming at you for so many years. And now we can get rid of the dogma and keep the Saturn disciplined, because we see a lot of beautiful results throughout nature and throughout Eastern gurus, etc., who have developed phenomenal mental states with their discipline, yes. But the point is, Neptune is here now. Neptune is opposite Saturn now. Neptune is coming in opposition to Saturn. That's your Neptune. Now, what do you think your Neptune is saying to that Saturn?
I know that I've been, the spiritual side has been a lot more prominent lately. I've been feeling it, not just thinking about it, but feeling it.
Right. And what does that feel like?
Liberating.
I'm going to take that further than liberating. It's starting to show you, and this is the only way it can happen. You can't rip your skin off. You're going to gently, simply, step by step, start to see when I take a step outside and take another step outside, sky didn't fall. Step outside, sky didn't fall. That's how it's going to happen. We have no idea how much you'll be able to be victorious with this, but you see the principle. You see the perfect principle, and I'm done with this. You see how the Jupiter-Saturn in the natal chart showed you the fight, how it all went to Mercury, which you needed for a long time, and all the figuring you out that you tried to do, I think did do you some good, because you're awful bright about this. You're right on it. You're really smart about it. You're really sharply aware of the dynamics. Do you all understand? Are you understanding what's happening here?
I'd like to clarify something too.
Let's try this. Let's try this part here. Or not. Yeah, go ahead, Yvonne.
I've spent a lot of time working on not blaming my parents, not blaming my mother.
Fabulous.
And one of the things I mentioned last week when we discussed this was how she wouldn't tell me she loved me, and that bothered me a lot.
Of course.
And then I turned it around and, okay, what is there for me to learn from this? Why was she that way in my life? For me, it was for me, because that's what she was here for. That's what everyone is here for, is to play whatever role we need them to play.
Exactly.
And it took me a while, but I finally figured out that I think that it was for me to learn to love myself.
Well, there's no doubt, and that's beautifully said. Now, I want to point out something to you that's really critical here. Your past life had Saturn in Virgo square to Mercury in Gemini. But in this lifetime, which means the reason I show the past life chart is I envision, I've been through regressive hypnosis. I've had people take me to the edge of a waterfall, and he said to me, "Do you want to go into your next lifetime?" I said, "No." He said, "You want to?" "No." And he shoved me, and whoop, I felt myself go down this huge waterfall, and I was upside down inside my mother. Unbelievable. But preceding that, I had been meeting with my parents, my soul group, my spiritual leaders. We've been reviewing my past lives, etc. In other words, you designed this lifetime to be exactly, Ram Dass says, the exact moment and type of death you have down to the second is pre-known. You've got it all designed, but you also made yourself forget. And it doesn't matter because you still experience it as you do. But the point is, why did you have Saturn square Mercury, but in this lifetime you've got Jupiter and Neptune involved?
Considering that Jupiter and Neptune are both spiritual, very highly
I'm sorry, Jupiter in Pisces.
Oh, Jupiter in Pisces?
Yes, Jupiter in Pisces. You added that to the construct in this lifetime.
I would say it would have to be a spiritual thing to connect.
Well, there's no doubt. Yes, yes. I think what you did. I think what you did, and I don't know this exactly, and I'm looking forward to working with you, especially with that Moon-Pluto conjunction of yours. It's so important. That's a huge part of this story. But I think in this lifetime, you said to yourself, well, I'm going to conquer this Saturn-Mercury thing sometime in 2017 with this astrology guy when Eris gets involved. I'm telling you.
Thank you.
You knew exactly when you would do this.
Thank you.
It could not have been discussed a month ago, 4 years from now. We've seen it happen. Me and Karen, me and Linda, we've seen it happen in class. The subject comes up when the time's right. So you brought the Jupiter and Pisces with you this time to say, I mean, my God, wouldn't you like to take Jupiter and Pisces along with you anywhere? It's just like this lovely friend who's always with you, always beautiful, always smiling, always saying yes, always unconditionally loving. It sure can't hurt the argument. So what's happening with you now, in my opinion, and I'm closing this door, is you're seeing how you have choice now to continue to be the drill sergeant upon your own self or not. And this time of working on and trying is over with. Because working on and trying means I really want to fail. Ram Dass says working on and trying means I really want to. I want to. There's nothing wrong with it. We all want to till we're ready. The point is you're ready. That's what's happening. You are ready. You are ready to tilt the steering wheel, tilt the seesaw more towards trusting the voice of the Jupiter Neptune. The Saturn in Virgo is really good if you're in the workshop. It's really good if you're working on a spreadsheet. It's really good if you're being an architect. But it's not good with your spiritual development. It's not good with human relations. It's not good with the bowels. It's not good with your stomach and your intestines. It's not good with letting things flow. So what's happening is this is an announcement within 5.5 hours of these two planets being exact. It's symbolic that you're ready for this turning point. And the next time these things will line up like this, in this particular part of Aries, will be about 700 years from now. So do you get the idea?
Me?
The reason we showed it, and you're really in sync with this, I suggest you're much more ready for this than you think. And it is shocking, and it is scary, and it is unnerving, but I think it's wonderful. And that's why Neptune is so wonderful. Transiting Neptune brings us God's grace.
I'm certainly ready for it.
Wonderful. I would like to hear from you more. I do want to do a personal reading with you, but I would like to hear from you periodically throughout the Unplugs about your progress and how things happen. Because as you start to trust the Neptune-Jupiter, the Neptune in Sagittarius, I'm sorry, I get them kind of screwed up, the Jupiter in Pisces, it's all the same thing. Things will start falling in your lap. You know how I know? Because I will tell you, up until now, everything has been a struggle. A fight.
Yeah.
That's Saturn and Virgo. Fight. It doesn't work unless you fight. Oh, the man who's successful in this world gets out there and he sweats and he works hard. It's a lie. It's not true. Sarah Palin, the only fish that goes with the flow is dead fish. That was one of her brilliant Palinisms. The only fish that goes with the flow is a dead fish. But that's not what tonight was about. Tonight was a really good example of you working with it. And do you see how many times I speak with absolute confidence of what I'm seeing? Not because I'm good, but because that's what it is. Those energies symbolize, in other words, if I were really wrong, it would be because you were numbing those energies. You've distorted those energies. So people ask me about predictions. I say, I don't predict, I know.
I just had an aha moment.
Yeah.
On Jupiter, Saturn.
Yeah.
Another way that I think it's manifested in my life.
Yeah.
I was raised a fundamentalist Christian. And I started out the first part of my life that way. And that would definitely be Saturn in Virgo.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That somewhere along the line, I guess it actually started in my teens. I started seeing other ways of looking at things, and I started studying other religions. Things happened to me that forced me to believe in things that I didn't believe in, and I couldn't as a fundamentalist, but they were happening, and I couldn't deny them. That things like this, just a little at a time. And all of it was definitely leading me away from the fundamentalism.
You see how she's fighting? See how she's fighting against fundamentalism and her cat screaming? You see that?
I'm sorry.
That the cat screaming when you touch this touchy subject in the South.
Oh.
The cat's going, no, don't say that, don't say that, don't talk about that, don't say that.
I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry. Don't be sorry.
Notice her.
That's the synchronicity of this moment. That's not a cat screaming. That's you screaming. That's what we've been talking about for months here. We talked about the lady in St. Louis, and she couldn't keep the pilot light lit in her furnace. Remember? It's also beautifully tied. Beautifully tied. So when they ask me, well, what's going to happen, Rick? Well, I don't know what's going to happen, but I've got awful good thoughts about Yvonne now, because she's aware of the problem. She's aware of how to unwind it. She's making great efforts towards untwisting it from her mother, taking responsibility for it. She's feeling the Neptune that's in town. She's starting to ride the Neptune. Do you see how fabulous this is? And this is how true astrology works. It's just astounding. Now, it takes you, when you're learning, it takes you time to understand. You know, I understand Saturn's nature instinctively because I worked with it a long time. When you're new, you have to learn these pieces. But that's what all your charts are like. Your charts all show these fights and these blends and these energies. And frankly, Yvonne's chart's pretty peaceful except for those two areas. I mean, there's a lot of pleasant stuff in that chart, but that fight with Saturn, Jupiter, and that moon, Pluto is very tough that we still have yet to discover. Now, I'm really not in the mood to open up a third chart. I could do that or another chart. I would much rather take your questions along this line. I don't want to examine your chart per se, but I want you to understand how aspects work in your chart. Do you understand? I'm getting kind of a heads going up and down with Susan F. and with Louise and Deborah too. Susan A. has a T-square question, yes. You are unmuted now.
Okay, perfect. So what happens if the T-square doesn't have any personal planets in it?
Doesn't matter if it's personal or not. It's a good question. If the T-square is going to Saturn, what do you think?
Well, yeah, the T-square is all the opposition is two other.
That's not what I'm asking you. If the T-square is going, we're not going to get personal into your chart. We're going to stay general into the lesson. If the T-square is going to Saturn, do you think Saturn is a good conduit of energy? No. It constipates it. Do you think a T-square going to Pluto is a good energy expression? No. If it's going to Neptune, sure, but it gets dissipated. If it's going to Venus, sure. If it's going to the moon, to the emotions. If to Mercury, you already saw it. What if it's going to Mars? Muhammad Ali. You ever notice Muhammad Ali backed up in the corner and he gets pissed off? He had a T-square to Mars when he wound up and when he let it go. That's why the punches were so astronomical and knocked out. T-squares are great energy going through a third planet or more, but if the third planet is not very conductive, you have high degrees of constipation with your energy, you see?
Well, okay, so if a person had Jupiter opposite Neptune, it might be exaggeration and vagueness. And then if the T-square was Saturn, would it make them more precise?
Well, in a very vague way, you could say yes, but you have to always understand, what did I say? You have to understand, what does the base of the T-square say? What does Jupiter opposite Neptune say? In 2015, I warned everybody I could write to because Jupiter was opposite Neptune. And I wrote an article saying politically, we are facing tremendous amount of delusion or inspiration, or Donald Trump, or Bernie Sanders. Choose one or the other. We got tremendously inspired by the Jupiter-Neptune combination of Bernie, and the opposite thing, Jupiter opposite Neptune, is called a cult. Delusion. Seeing what you want to see. Deceiving people. I wrote about it. Remember the article? It was called Delusion versus Inspiration.
Right. Okay.
All right, now. That's a really hard question because the Jupiter, Neptune, if they're conjunct, Jupiter, Neptune is very positive. It's really apparent in people who are very spiritual, loving, calling, even the priesthood, the sisterhood. Yes. Even in the family of non-believers, the one with the Jupiter, Neptune will have tremendous faith. When the square gets involved or the opposition gets involved, you get trouble. Because then you get seeing what I want to see. I believe what I want to believe. I saw a UFO. You didn't see nothing. Yes, I did. You get twisted. One voice says, I think I saw it. The other one says, yeah, you did. You get the deluded voices talking to you. You see anybody in our current administration that reminds you of that? It's crazy.
Okay.
Now, when you have Saturn involved, Saturn will help it, but it's not so much help it, it's just suppressing it and controlling it. So it's not spoken.
Okay.
You see?
Okay.
So Saturn is not a. Would you take two tributaries, like the three rivers of Pittsburgh? Would you take the Allegheny and the Mon coming together, put Saturn at the point? No, you're putting a dam right at the point of contact. You want the third point to be conducive, flowing, expressive of.
Okay.
But what your question is very good because it does lots of things, because there are ways, certainly, that Saturn will put a grip on that Jupiter Neptune. Yes, it will definitely come into play and talk some sense into those two other planets, because the other two are the most wildly irrational planets there are versus the most rational. Now, Susan, if you flip that around and put the two planets flowing through Neptune or the two planets flowing through Jupiter, you have a whole different story. But you're getting the idea. That's very good. Ray to everyone. Good night. Okay. Whose question is next? Yes, Patricia, I've unmuted you.
Okay. Uranus and Eris, 22 degrees Aries tonight at 2:20, conjunct my Saturn. What might happen?
Oh my God, that's just so. We talked about this last week in a sense. I mean, that's so enormous, but
Yes.
it's enormous. But Eris has been there for years.
Yes.
Eris has been sitting there for nothing's sneaking up on Eris. It's moved 20 degrees in my lifetime.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Eris has already been talking a lot to your Saturn, which would be in Libra.
No. Aries.
Your
Aries.
Saturn is in Aries. So
Saturn is 23 Aries.
It's a conjunction of all three.
A conjunction, yes.
All right. Well, first of all, your Saturn, where did you go? There you are. First of all, your Saturn in Aries is not a good place for Saturn, is it?
No.
One of the worst places for Saturn.
And it is
because Saturn is exalted in the opposite sign of Libra.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's in its fall in its sign of Aries. Why? Let's start with this now. Why is Saturn unable to do its thing in the sign of Aries? Why is Saturn in its fall in the sign of Aries?
It's square Mars in Capricorn as well.
Not the
And
question.
Square Pluto in Cancer on the other direction.
Not the question.
No. Okay. Question
Think
is.
about it. Think about it. Let me get you in here. Something's gone amiss.
Yeah.
I wasn't prepared for your charts.
Oh. Oh dear.
Okay, so there's your Saturn,
Yep.
and Uranus and Eris are both right there tonight.
Yep. Right.
All right. First of all, Saturn is the planet of let's make sure, and if we have to condense and corral things together to make sure, that's what we'll do. Aries is forget that. I don't want any blocks in my way. I don't want to consider things. I want to just go do it.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think? What do you think is going to be conducive to the voice of Eris and the voice of Uranus? You think it's going to get along better with the Aries part or the Saturn part? It's going to blow your Saturn out of the water.
Yeah. Right.
Right? Okay.
Yeah.
So therefore, you should be feeling. I've told you this before, and I'm gonna report this again, so you'll get the idea. Your Saturn is blowing up.
Yes.
Okay, it's not blowing up because somebody in the Death Star is shooting at it. It's inside you. It's happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
What does that mean that your Saturn is blowing up? It means I'm tired of disciplining myself.
Yeah.
Well, you're talking to a Taurus. Tauruses aren't tired of disciplining themselves. Taurus doesn't want change, but Uranus does. Aries does. Taurus doesn't. You see the fight that's going on?
Yeah.
Want change, don't want change. Want change, don't want change. Blow it up, don't blow it up. Blow it up, don't blow it up. See?
Yeah.
What's going on? So you have to get above it and realize why is it happening. The reason it's happening is because you're realizing that Saturn has been strangling you for a long time.
Yeah.
And it needs to let go.
Yeah.
But the Taurus trusts Saturn. Oh, I trust it. We do the same thing every day. It's the same chair. It's the same food. It's the same form. It's the same people. I trust it because I get stability. This mythical thing that's unreal, that Taurus believes, that's called stability, that does not exist.
Right. Right.
Cancer, same thing. Why do you think Taurus and Cancer always get married? This fake thing called stability. There's no stability.
No, I can't stand cancers.
Well, I understand how the problem could be, but
Yeah.
why is there no stability? Because life, the one thing about life, it always changes. That's why.
Okay.
Why is there no stability? What is the only stability that you can? The cat was not a distraction, Yvonne. You're not getting the point. The cat was the sound of you. The cat wouldn't have meowed unless we touched a sensitive subject, such as Southern evangelism. That's the point. The
Okay.
cat's not a problem. The cat's just hungry. It's working on a different level. What was I talking about? Saturn. Okay,
My cat is being quiet.
of course. So
It's
so
asleep.
what's happening in you, it's very difficult to have two major planets sitting on your Saturn. Oh, the point is, there's only one kind of stability. What would that be? There's only one way you can have stability. How could that possibly happen?
I'm trying to figure that out.
All right. Other people have any ideas? Try it out. Try me out.
It's not a stable time.
That has nothing to do with it.
Oh, okay.
That has nothing to do with it. Of course, no time is ever stable. What is the only way you can be stable? Barbara? Say it.
Let go. Let God.
Let go, let God. That's exactly right.
Yes.
Well, all I got to tell you is this, and it's the most meaningful thing to me in my life, is I just keep picturing Jesus going like this.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to evangelize here. Jesus, what was he saying? Not this damn thing. That's the worst thing we ever got. This
Oh,
is the
yeah.
pro-
Oh,
this is the problem. What was Jesus saying here? It's not me, it's my Father. What did he say? What he was saying is, my only comfort, he said it in so many ways, my only comfort is to be nestled with the Father. That is stability. And what you call stability it's wrong, it's false, it ain't real, and it needs blown up. That's what's happening.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah,
It
except
ain't easy. It's not easy.
I blew up Jesus years ago when I was about 17.
Well, I mean, Jesus
I turned Quaker.
well, I can understand all those
I
things.
need that crap now.
Jesus was telling us the absolute truth. It was just he was trying to talk to people that were so backward with awkward parables a long time ago. He's been twisted so badly. He's telling us today the truth. He still is. He's still narrating and translating books to us. But that's the problem. The problem is you don't want the stability blowing up, but you do want it, or else those planets wouldn't be there. But the thing that you're calling stability, that you're holding on tight, that you want it to stay stable, are the things that are actually hurting you. So the question becomes, what in your life is keeping you from this?
Nothing.
All
really,
of this, Pat.
Nothing really. I'm pretty well there, and I'm transmitting this to some people that I know, some young millennials.
Wonderful.
I've reached out, put my arms around them, and am supporting what they're doing. So
wonderful, fabulous.
I'm kind of there, I guess.
Well, that's fabulous, and nobody can do all this stuff over the next few days, the next few months. We're all on these crazy paths that are difficult. But Barbara had it so beautifully. Exactly right. I mean, I remember in the book citing one of the most phenomenal people who ever lived, Helen Keller, who was a Cancer with a moon in Pisces, and she couldn't see and she couldn't hear.
Yeah.
Cancer with a moon in Pisces. And she said there is no stability. There is no security.
Yes.
It's the Cancer talking.
Yeah, yeah.
She knew. She was bigger, she was wider, she was bigger, broader. But we've all, I mean, you can all, I'm sure every one of you agree with this. Everything comes down to this damn image that we got called control.
I'm just thinking I caused a real commotion in the gas station last week.
Yeah.
Yes. I was trying to pull up to one of the two diesel pumps, and some pickup truck pulled in and preempted, and it was a gasoline truck. So I gave the people a little lecture when I went in to pay for my fuel. And there's a guy here with firewood truck, diesel, and you could hear it chugging. He was blocked. There's another guy here who's offering to pump my diesel fuel for me. So I go in, I say something Saturnian to this couple, and the woman went off. She just went off, and she started mouthing and screaming and hollering, and the two of them went back out. He drove away. The two guys are standing there in hysterics. And when he got to the street, he stripped the gears of the truck, and the woman's still going yak, 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 yak.
So you see how Uranus is working through you.
Right.
So
And
while you are blowing up your Saturn, you're going to blow up all the stability around you.
Right.
You're a walking bomb. That's exactly how the planets work.
With humor. With humor.
And with humor, yes.
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
who's next? The next question? Let's try somebody else now. Anybody else got any questions? Let's try to give everybody a chance here. Linda Jordan, Platt, and any questions? Anybody else? Barbara, Marta, anybody?
I have a question.
Yeah, Marilyn.
How does the Jupiter and Saturn relationship, say, for example, with nature or with the law affect her life?
Whose life?
Yvonne.
Well, that's a really good question. It really is. How do the Jupiter Saturn that show themselves out in the world?
Well,
Yeah.
that relationship of nature as a companion with Jupiter that can bring solace.
Well, that's a very, very good question. First of all, I'll say to you, Jupiter are the activities in the world that make you bigger. You go to school, you go overseas, you learn from people, you learn languages, you get bigger. They never stop reading, they never stop studying. There's this wonderful feeling of opening up and it'll all be okay. And this very underrated feeling of well-being. That's Jupiter. We bullshit ourselves into calling it good luck. Jupiter is so misunderstood. It's not good luck. It's just a feeling of well-being. All I got to tell you is what I said in the book. Do you know when you got the 2 dice in your hands and you're playing the board game with your friends and you need to have that 7, and before you release that 7, you know you got a 7 and you roll it and it's a 7? You've all been there. That's Jupiter. Being in that flow. Well, the Saturn is the opposite energy. Well, you got to make sure, and was the dice measured right, and was the equivalent weights inside that die, and what was any wind blowing in the room? So it's in the world around her. How does she deal with opportunity? Does she go in easily? Does she make up her mind? Does she say yes and then later on say no? That's the biggest problem with Jupiter Saturn. One's yes, one's no. So how does this address your question?
Well, I know that our relationship with Earth itself
Right?
is going to stretch into all the planetary systems, but because Jupiter has that mysterious red dot,
Mm-hmm.
and it's full of storms.
Only a few hundred years. It's only 600 years. I mean, that's minuscule in the life of the planet.
But our relationship with Jupiter can be like a companion with Gaia, with nature.
Well, there's no doubt about that, yeah, but nothing would keep it together if it weren't for Saturn. Saturn is the force that keeps the whole universe together. In astrology, you have to have high degree of harmony in you between Jupiter, Saturn, and Uranus. Okay, Jupiter's a part of you that wants to grow, but you got to talk to it or else it'll BS you. It doesn't want any restrictions. You know, I've had people bring their teenage Sagittarian kids to me and to try to talk some sense into them. And I get talking with them, and what they got is their ears closed. They just don't want to hear it. They just want to have fun. Blech. Well, you can't have that planet ruling you because of obvious reasons. The Saturn is misunderstood. It needs to take that spirit of Jupiter and make sure that it has a real expression into the real world, but then it has to allow itself to be blown up by Uranus so that it doesn't get too rigid. So the Jupiter grows, the Saturn congeals and forms, the Uranus blows it up and renews it. So in your chart, when you study somebody, the health of the Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus triad is critical, or you can see where the person has trouble with growth. So the same principles are with the world. It's the same principles in the world. And the number one principle in the world is, the United States is not so Uranian. We are the Uranus crazies. And most of the world is not so Saturn. Wanting to conquer, wanting to control, wanting to stop, wanting to form, wanting to put laws, right? And you see in nature, what does nature do? Nature Jupiter's itself, nature Saturn's itself, nature Uranizes itself. It just does. They're all very natural energies. Now, don't you think so?
Well, I was wondering about how there's so much change right now.
Yeah, but you're also looking at Uranus within hours of conjuncting Uranus in Aries with Eris.
Okay.
Okay.
That's actually going to open things up.
Uranus in Aries with Eris.
It's going to open things up. And I think the
It's going to
volcano,
blow things sky
well,
high.
it's the volcano in Etna, Mount Etna exploded.
It is not going to. It has been blowing things sky high. Look around you.
Well, there were 10 people who were injured due to volcanic ash and stones and fire raining down on them on the campus of that volcano.
Well, you see, when two planets explode, you're always going to get the good, the bad, and the ugly. But you have to study first what's the nature and the condition of things before it's. This was not exactly Miss Peaceful.
The roller coaster's at the top.
Peaceful little lake here. We've not all been sitting by the lake like Thoreau and Emerson. The past 50 years, it's been nuts already. I wrote years ago how the planet's insane.
We're like grumpy old men in a boat arguing.
Well, it's just a damn miracle any of us get along. It just is.
Walter Matthau.
Think about how hard it is just to get along with your own brain. Think about how hard that is. Now multiply times 7 billion. I mean, it's just nuts and crazy. Now, we're going to have very positive things come out of this period, like revolution, and the women are going to lead the way, and people in the South will no longer sell pink yarn so they can have their pussy hats, right? That's crazy. Religions are blowing up. All kinds of things are blowing up. But like I said a long time ago, when the patient is on the, like Elke knows so well, when the patient's being operated on for so many issues, so much corruption has come out, so much pus is found, how much can the body take?
I see it more as a birthing.
What?
Abscess.
What's that?
I see it more as a birthing rather than an abscess.
Be my guest. That's John. John's a great thinker. If you could translate, if anybody can translate this Eris Uranus that's in about 5 hours, have at it. Because it's so big, it's so huge. We're trying. Yeah, go ahead.
Wasn't it direct already once before? This is the third time, isn't it? This is the third hit, yeah.
Yeah. And what's interesting about that is that one of the degrees, one's 23 and one's 24, one of the degrees is about the release of the feminine, and the other one is about the release of the individual. And I do think I got onto something last night, and I do think it's correct. I think it's this rather new concept of if you want to help everybody, heal yourself.
Hey, Rick.
Yeah.
I had some thoughts, not so much about Eris Uranus, but Eris Pluto. I've really been following Eris Pluto for a while. Yeah, I know. Well, I think honestly,
Eris is at 24, Pluto is at 18.
Yeah, but here's the deal.
They're heading for each other, aren't they?
You got a square. There is a square coming up.
Yeah,
now,
oh my God.
My theory is that this is tied with the Industrial Revolution. Last time Eris and Pluto met up and in a conjunction was once, it was like in the 1750s. It's right around the time Pittsburgh was founded. And you know what Pittsburgh means to the Industrial Revolution. Steel City. I mean, Pittsburgh built the world, pretty much, the modern world. 1920s, that was the opening square. Gemini to Pisces. I think it was. Eris was in late Pisces. And, that was about the time things really started to take off again right after World War One.
Wait. Eris could not have been in Pisces.
Oh, it was.
Eris has been in Aries for 125 years.
I know. But what I'm saying, Rick, is that it was at the very end of Pisces, and Pluto was in Gemini.
About Uranus, not Eris.
Yeah. Well, it was like, no. This was, if I remember correctly, I need to look it up again, but I'm pretty sure Eris was,
Eris is in Aries from 1900 to 2025.
Okay. I need to double check that, though.
Don't argue with a Capricorn, okay? Just don't.
This Capricorn moon arguing with a Capricorn sun. So, okay. So regardless, there was a square. Well, and the Industrial Revolution went up to a brand new level, though, after World War II or World War One. The opposition now. Everybody knows what happens during the 1970s. I was born during the opposition between when Eris was in Aries still, but Pluto was in Libra, and that was in the 1970s, energy crisis, all that stuff. And it's funny, I was talking with somebody about this today, though, but I think when we have the closing square in the 2020s, I think that is going to be sort of like a culmination of the Industrial Revolution. I think during
the Pluto return of the country.
Yes, with 3D printing and all this other stuff, kind of these new breakthroughs coming through. I think we're going to see a lot of this take off, and Pluto going into Aquarius, Uranus into Gemini. I just think we're about to go into a new stage of the Industrial Revolution.
My point, I repeat, is I really don't know how much the body can take. I just don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think it's the release of the collective in a way.
Exactly.
Exactly. It's gone from the personal to the transpersonal, and now we're going into the collective. And there is this, we should talk about the elephant in the room. We should talk about January 12th, 2020. This stellium.
And that's just a few days from the Pluto return.
Yes. And that is like, it's Jupiter, Pluto, Saturn, and I think Venus. I can't remember which other one. They're all at 22 Capricorn, and they're opposing my natal sun, and I'm like, oh my God.
On my Mars.
Oh my God.
That's just a few days before Oprah gets